What if one man's stand against Muslim expansion saved Europe from a completely different fate? How close was Europe to falling under Muslim rule? Without Charles Martel's leadership, would the West have become unrecognizable today? The year was AD 732. The fields near Tours were shrouded in the cold autumn mist, the morning air heavy with foreboding. As the sun rose, its weak light glinted off the steel of thousands of swords and spears. The two armies stood poised, a vast sea of tension stretching between them. The muffled clatter of armor and the whinnying of horses filled the air as soldiers tightened their grips on their weapons. The acrid stench of sweat and fear mingled with the earthy aroma of damp soil, creating an atmosphere thick with anticipation. For the Frankish soldiers, many of whom were farmers turned fighters, the stakes could not have been higher. They faced the might of the Umayyad cavalry, whose reputation for swift and deadly charges struck terror into their hearts. When the clash finally came, it was like a thunderstorm breaking loose. The ground shook under the thunderous impact of cavalry charges colliding with the Frankish shield wall. The deafening cries of men in battle drowned out any other sound. The metallic ring of swords clashing, the dull thud of axes biting into flesh, and the anguished screams of the wounded created a cacophony of chaos. The air grew thick with the coppery tang of blood and the acrid smoke of burning wood and banners. Soldiers on both sides fought with desperation, the Franks to protect their homeland and faith, the Umayyads to expand their dominion and secure glory. Among the chaos, Charles Martel stood resolute, his eyes scanning the battlefield with a calculating intensity. Known for his unyielding focus, he remained calm amidst the storm, issuing orders with a clarity that cut through the din of battle. What drove this man to such determination? How did the illegitimate son of a mayor rise to hold the fate of Europe in his hands? Born in AD 688, Charles Martel's life began in the shadows. As the illegitimate son of Pepin of Herstal, the mayor of the palace in Austrasia, Charles' place in the Frankish world was uncertain. His mother, Alpaida, was a concubine, a fact that could have barred Charles from any significant role in Frankish society. Yet even as a young man, he displayed a rare blend of ambition and intelligence. After Pepin's death in AD 714, Charles's life took a dramatic turn. His stepmother Plectrude sought to secure power for her own family line, imprisoning Charles to eliminate him as a rival. But Charles' resilience shone through. He escaped from captivity, rallying a network of supporters and demonstrating an uncanny ability to inspire loyalty and unite factions. These early struggles against internal rivals honed the tactical brilliance and political acumen that would define his later years. Charles's rise to power was marked by battles on multiple fronts. The Frankish kingdom was fragmented, with rival factions vying for dominance. Charles's first challenge was to defeat these internal threats, which he did with ruthless efficiency. His early victories against the Frisians and Saxons further solidified his authority. By the time of the Battle of Tours, Charles was not only a seasoned warrior, but a pragmatic ruler. He had begun to innovate in ways that would reshape medieval warfare. Charles used a system of granting lands, known as precaria, to maintain a standing army of professional soldiers. This system ensured he had a loyal and efficient fighting force, ready to respond to threats, a critical factor in his ability to meet the Umayyad challenge. By AD 732, the Frankish kingdom was under immense pressure. The Umayyad forces, led by Abdul Rahman al-Ghafiqi, had swept through the Iberian Peninsula and into southern France, their sights set on further expansion. How did Charles Martel's strategic positioning and disciplined infantry manage to hold off the Umayyad cavalry's relentless charges? This was a question that would linger in the minds of many for centuries. Charles's choice of battlefield near Tours was no accident. He positioned his forces on high ground, flanked by natural barriers that neutralized the Umayyad cavalry's mobility. His infantry formed a tightly packed phalanx, a wall of shields and spears that stood unyielding against the enemy's onslaught. The soldiers, though outnumbered, fought with grim determination. For the Frankish troops, this was not just a battle for survival, but for the very soul of their homeland. What was the mood and mindset of the Frankish troops as they braced for the Muslim onslaught, knowing the fate of Europe hung in the balance? As the battle raged, the Frankish line held firm, repelling charge after charge. The Umayyad forces, accustomed to breaking their enemies with swift strikes, found themselves bogged down in a brutal melee. The death of al-Ghafiqi in the thick of battle marked the turning point. Leaderless and unable to break the Frankish defense, the Umayyad army began to retreat. Charles' victory was complete, earning him the nickname Martel, or the Hammer, for his crushing blow to the invaders. The aftermath of the battle was a moment of profound significance. How did the news of Charles's decisive victory at Tours reverberate across the Frankish realm and the wider Christian world? Chroniclers hailed him as the savior of Christendom. Edward Gibbon, the famed historian of the Enlightenment, called the Battle of Tours the decisive victory which rescued our ancestors of Gaul and Britain from the civil and religious yoke of the Quran. Yet, some modern historians argue that the Umayyad incursion was more about raiding than conquest. Was Europe truly on the brink of falling under Muslim rule? Or has history exaggerated the stakes of this pivotal encounter? The victory at Tours was not the end of Charles's challenges. The Frankish kingdom, though temporarily safe from external threats, was still fractured internally. Charles spent the next decade consolidating his power, subduing rebellious dukes in regions like Aquitaine and Burgundy. His alliance with the Church proved crucial, supporting missionary efforts like those of Saint Boniface, who worked to convert pagan tribes to Christianity. Charles cemented the Frankish rulers' role as defenders of Christendom. Charles' political acumen matched his military success. By implementing a feudal system, he created a loyal network of vassals who provided military service in exchange for land. This innovation not only secured his rule, but laid the groundwork for the medieval European military system. When Charles died on October 22, 741, he left behind a legacy that extended far beyond the battlefield. His sons, Carloman and Pepin the Short, inherited a unified and stable Frankish kingdom. Pepin would go on to become king, and his son, Charlemagne, would build an empire that shaped the course of European history. Charles's efforts, therefore, were not just about defense, but about laying the foundation for a new era. So what if Charles Martel had failed? Without his leadership, the Umayyads might have succeeded in extending their control into Europe, potentially erasing the cultural and religious foundations that define the West today. The battle at Tours, though often romanticized, was a pivotal moment where the fate of a continent hung in the balance. As historian Paul Fouracre observes, Charles' victory was not just a triumph of arms, but of vision, ensuring that Europe remained a land where diverse ideas could flourish. How close was Europe to falling under Muslim rule? The answer lies in understanding the fragile state of the Frankish kingdom. and the relentless advance of the Umayyad forces. It was Charles's strategic brilliance and unyielding resolve that made the difference. Would the West have become unrecognizable without him? It is impossible to say with certainty, but Charles's victory ensured the survival of a distinctly European identity, rooted in Christian and classical traditions. His legacy reminds us of the power of decisive action in the face of overwhelming odds. What do you think? Was Charles Martel's victory the defining moment that saved Europe? Or do you believe history would have taken a similar course without him? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this exploration of history, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to War and Wisdom in History, and click the notification bell to stay updated on our latest content. Stay curious, seek wisdom, and we'll see you in the next chapter of history.